Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Deku was a ranked assassin in No More Heroes. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The smell of paint thinner was the only thing stronger than the smell of despair and Santa Destroy. Izuku Midoriya scrubbed. His arm moved in a rhythmic, circular motion, the rough sponge eating away at the neon pink spray paint that defaced the bronze boot of the symbol of peace. It was a humiliating gig. The public sanitation hero worship maintenance crew paid minimum wage, provided no benefits, and required him to wear a jumpsuit that was 2 sizes too big and smelled faintly of old urine. He looked up. The statue of All Might towered over the park, 50 feet of hollow bronze smiling down at a city that had long since stopped smiling back. In this district, heroes didn't patrol. They did photo shoots in the uptown sectors, signed endorsement deals for energy drinks, and left places like Santa Destroy to rot. The graffiti on All Might's shin read, "God is dead." Heroes are paid actors. I missed the spot, Izuku muttered to himself, his voice a dry rasp. The loop of the D in dead. Acrylic base. Hard to get off without corrosives. Need to be careful not to pit the bronze. He wasn't muttering about hero strategies anymore. He wasn't analyzing quirks. He was analyzing solvent chemical compositions and labor efficiency. Izuku Midoriya was 21 years old. He was quirkless. He was broke. And he was currently the most dangerous unseen variable in the prefecture. He dipped the sponge into the bucket, the gray water sloshing over his rubber gloves. A group of teenagers walked by laughing. One of them, a kid with a minor mutation quirk that gave him horns, kicked over Izuku's bucket. "Cleaner scum!" The kid jeered. "Go polish a turd." The dirty water soaked into Izuku's boots. He didn't look up. He didn't flinch. He just watched the water darken the concrete. Scenario A, his mind whispered, a rapid-fire tactical HUD overlaying his vision. Dislocate the knee with a sweeping kick. Use the momentum to drive the mop handle into the trachea. Fatal outcome probability, 12%. Non-fatal incapacitation, 88%. Scenario B, do nothing. Keep the job. By the batteries. Izuku sighed, the breath hitching in his chest. He chose Scenario B. He always chose Scenario B during daylight hours. "Sorry," Izuku mumbled, bowing his head. The kids laughed and moved on, disappearing into the neon-lit smog of the afternoon. Izuku picked up the bucket. He needed this check. The entry fees for the United Assassins Association were due tonight, and if he didn't pay, he lost his spot. And if he lost his spot, he couldn't kill Muscular. And if he couldn't kill Muscular, he couldn't get the money to pay for his mother's dialysis. It was a simple flowchart. A bloody, jagged flowchart. He finished cleaning the statue as the sun began to set, casting long, twisted shadows across the park. The massive, grinning face of All Might looked almost demonic in the half-light. Izuku packed his supplies, slung his bag over his shoulder, and walked away. He didn't look back at the hero. He didn't believe in heroes anymore. He believed in beam katanas. Izuku's apartment was the No More Dreams Motel, room 203. It was a single room that smelled of instant ramen and ozone. The walls were thin enough that he could hear his neighbor, a man who seemed to exclusively watch 1980s game shows at maximum volume, screaming along with the contestants. Izuku kicked the door shut behind him and locked all 3 deadbolts. The room was a shrine to 2 warring halves of his soul. On the left wall, faded posters of All Might from his childhood, peeling and yellowed. On the right, shelves stacked with meticulously organized weapon parts, schematics for energy conductors, and vintage wrestling masks. He walked to the center of the room, stepping over a pile of dirty laundry and pizza boxes. There, resting on a workbench illuminated by a single flickering halogen lamp, was it, the Bloodberry Mark III. Custom build. He called it Detroit Smash, a private, ironic joke. It looked like a glorified flashlight attached to a motorcycle handle, jury-rigged with exposed wiring and duct tape. But Izuku knew better. He ran his scarred fingers over the grip. He had bought the core on the dark web using an encrypted server he'd routed through 6 different countries, draining his savings. The casing he'd machined himself at a scrapyard. He picked it up. It was heavy, grounding. Battery check, he whispered. He shook the handle violently. It was a motion that looked obscene to the uninitiated, a frantic up and down jerking motion to prime the kinetic dynamo. A high-pitched whine began to rise, a sound like a jet engine starting up in a library. Zjism. He thumbed the activation switch. A beam of pure, verdant energy erupted from the emitter. It crackled and hissed, the green light bathing the shabby apartment in an eerie, radioactive glow. The heat was instant. It smelled of burning dust. Izuku swung it. The hum of the blade changed pitch with the movement, a Doppler effect of death. Whoosh. Whoosh. He practiced his form in front of the cracked mirror. His stance was wide, his eyes dead. He wasn't the trembling boy from middle school anymore. His body was wiry, covered in burns and scars from testing his own equipment. He moved with a frightening economy of motion. Left parry. Step in. Bisect. Efficiency is 98%, he muttered. Emitter stability is holding. If muscular muscle fibers have a density exceeding standard bioarmor, I'll need to overcharge the capacitor. That gives me a 3-minute window before the handle melts my hand off. He deactivated the blade. The light died, plunging the room back into shadows. His phone buzzed on the workbench. A sleek, black device that didn't belong to a janitor. The screen displayed a single, pixelated icon, a pair of lips. It's time, Izuku said. The bar was called Goldie's. It was located in the red light district, sandwiched between a pachinko parlor and a shop that sold second-hand prosthetics. The interior was dim, smoky, and played smooth jazz that clashed violently with the violence of the clientele. Izuku walked in, wearing his signature green jacket, now tattered and reinforced with Kevlar patches, and red sneakers. He looked like a lost cosplayer. He spotted her immediately. It was impossible not to. Sylvia Crystal sat in a booth at the back, illuminated by a hanging red lamp. She was beautiful in a way that set off alarm bells in Izuku's lizard brain. Blonde hair, sharp eyes, and an outfit that cost more than Izuku's entire life earnings. She was smoking a thin cigarette using a long holder, the smoke curling around her like a snake. Izuku slid into the booth opposite her. He placed his heavy duffel bag on the table with a thud. "You're late, nerd," Sylvia said. Her voice was silk wrapped around a razor blade. She blew smoke into his face. "I was about to give the contract to a guy named Chainsaw Pete. He has no style, but he's punctual. I had to finish my shift," Izuku said, waving the smoke away. "And clean the equipment," Sylvia laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. "You're adorable. You're the only assassin in the UAA who pays taxes and scrubs bird shit off statues. It's almost poetic. Or pathetic. The line is thin." "Do you have the location?" Izuku asked, ignoring the jab. He pulled a notebook from his pocket. His hero analysis journals had morphed into kill logs. He clicked a pen. Sylvia leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. "Straight to business. No foreplay. I like that about you, Deku. That's your name, right? Deku? Sounds like a wooden puppet. It means I can do it," Izuku lied. Or maybe he wasn't lying anymore. Rank 10. Muscular. "Where is he?" Sylvia slid a glossy photo across the table. It showed a man who looked like a mountain of meat, his skin bursting with erratic muscle fibers, grinning like a shark. "Go to a Masuji. A.K. Muscular. Current rank 10 in the United Assassins Association," Sylvia recited, bored. "A real charmer. Likes to kill, likes to see the blood. He's not in it for the money, or the ideology. He's in it for the fun. He's squatted in the abandoned Kamino Ward redevelopment site. Says he likes the acoustics of the screams there." Izuku stared at the photo. He remembered seeing this man on the news years ago. A villain who slipped through the cracks when the Heroes Society started focusing only on marketable villains. "He has a quirk," Izuku said. "Muscle augmentation. He can increase his speed and power immensely. His fibers act as armor. Standard blades won't cut him. And you have, what?" Sylvia gestured to him with her cigarette. "No quirk. No backup. Just a glow stick you built in your garage and a lot of repressed anger." "It's a beam katana," Izuku corrected automatically. "And I have a strategy." Strategy is for people who can't punch hard enough, Sylvia smirked. But here's the deal, sweetie. You kill him, you take his rank? You become rank 10. The UA recognizes you. I get my commission, you get a fat stack of cash. Enough to keep your mommy plugged into her machines for another 6 months. Izuku's hand tightened around his pen until the plastic cracked. Don't talk about her. Sylvia's eyes glinted. Touchy. Good. Use that. Hate is a great fuel source. Better than solar, cleaner than coal. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. Entry fee? Izuku reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled envelope. It contained every yen he had scraped together for 3 months, selling rare collectibles, cleaning graffiti, delivering pizzas on a scooter that maxed out at 30 miles per hour. He slid it across the table. Sylvia took it without counting. Go get 'em, tiger. Or, try not to die. It's a lot of paperwork for me if you do. She turned and walked away, the jazz music swelling as if on cue. Izuku sat alone in the booth for a moment, staring at the photo of Muscular. He began to mutter, muscle fibers are external. If I can overload the kinetic feedback, his eyes are vulnerable, structural integrity of the site is compromised. I need to battery conserve for the final strike. He stood up, grabbed his bag, and walked out. The No More Heroes era of his life had officially begun. The Kamino Ward redevelopment site was a graveyard of steel and concrete. It was a massive construction project that had been halted due to embezzlement scandals, leaving half-finished skyscrapers jutting out of the ground like broken ribs. Rain had started to fall. Heavy, cold rain that slickened the rusted girders and turned the dust into gray sludge. Izuku rode his scooter, the UA crawler, up to the perimeter fence. He killed the engine. Silence returned to the site, save for the rhythmic drumming of the rain. He hopped the fence, his movements precise. He landed in a crouch, his sneakers squelching in the mud. He unzipped the duffel bag and pulled out the Detroit Smash. He strapped the battery pack to his belt, running the cable up his arm. He clipped the handle to his waist. He adjusted his gloves. Showtime, he whispered. He walked into the main atrium of an unfinished shopping mall. It was a cavernous space, 3 stories high, with rebar hanging from the ceiling like vines. I smell a nerd. The voice boomed from the shadows, shaking the dust from the rafters. Izuku stopped. He didn't draw his weapon yet. Go to a Masuji. By the authority of the United Assassins Association, I am here to claim your rank. A massive shape dropped from the 3rd floor, landing with a crater-forming impact 20 meters away. Muscular stood up. He was wearing a tank top that was tearing at the seams. He had a prosthetic eye, a battle scar from a previous assassin, and a smile that was all teeth. The UA sent a kid? Muscular laughed, cracking his knuckles. The sound was like gunshots. And a quirkless one at that? I saw your file on the dark web. Deku. The fanboy. I'm not a fanboy, Izuku said, his voice steady despite the trembling in his knees. I'm the janitor. Janitor? Muscular tilted his head. Well, you can clean up your own guts then. Muscular didn't waste time. He lunged. It wasn't a run, it was an explosion of movement. His legs bulked up, muscle fibers erupting through his skin to wrap around his limbs like organic hydraulic pistons. He crossed the 20 meters in a blink, fast. Izuku's analysis brain screamed. He didn't think, he reacted. He threw himself to the left in a desperate roll. Boom! Where Izuku had been standing a microsecond ago, the concrete floor was pulverized. Muscular's fist was buried elbow-deep in the ground. Too slow! Muscular roared, ripping his arm free and swinging a backhand. Izuku brought his arms up, activating his personal shield, a small, experimental energy barrier Mahatsum had sold him for a 200% markup. Crack! The barrier shattered instantly. The force of the blows sent Izuku flying. He crashed into a stack of drywall, dust pluming into the air. Pain exploded in his ribs, ribs 4 and 5 fractured. Lung capacity reduced by 15%. Target strength exceeds initial estimates by factor of 3. Izuku coughed, spitting blood. He scrambled to his feet. Muscular was already charging again. Come on! Show me your blood! Muscular screamed. Izuku grabbed the handle of his katana. Detroit. Smash! Zjism. The green blade ignited, casting long, frantic shadows. Izuku didn't retreat this time. He stepped in, muscular through a punch. Izuku ducked under it, the wind of the blow ruffling his hair. He swung the beam katana upward, aiming for the armpit. Zzzt, the blade connected. Sparks flew. But instead of slicing through, the beam sputtered against the dense, shifting layers of muscle fibers. It was like trying to cut a diamond with a blowtorch. Tickles! Muscular laughed. He grabbed the energy blade with his bare hand. The muscle fibers charred and smoked, but they regenerated faster than the beam could burn. He squeezed. The motor in Izuku's handle whined in protest. You can't cut me! Muscular yelled. He lifted his other fist. Scenario F, release weapon. Disengage. Izuku let go of the sword. Muscular, expecting resistance, stumbled back slightly. Izuku dropped to the ground and kicked Muscular's shin with the heel of his iron-toed sneaker. It did nothing but annoy the giant. Muscular punted Izuku across the room. Izuku flew through the air, crashing into a rusted scaffolding. He hit the ground hard, rolling until he hit a wall. His vision swam. The UI in his head flickered red. Critical health. Is that it? Muscular picked up the beam katana. He looked at it curiously, then tossed it over his shoulder like a piece of trash. It skidded across the concrete, landing near a puddle. Rank 10 isn't for little boys playing hero. Izuku struggled to his knees. He wiped blood from his eyes. He looked at his weapon. It was too far. Why do you do this? Izuku rasped. Muscular stopped stalking toward him. He shrugged, the massive fibers on his shoulders rippling. Because it's fun. Because I can. Society says don't kill. The heroes say be good. But look at me, I'm strong. Why shouldn't I use it? I want to see what people look like on the inside. It's the only time I feel alive. He pointed a massive finger at Izuku. You have dead eyes, kid. You don't enjoy this. You're just working. I am working, Izuku muttered. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of what looked like metal marbles. And I'm on the clock. He threw the marbles. They weren't weapons. They were stun grenades. Flashbangs modified with high-frequency sonic emitters. Bang! A blinding white light filled the atrium. A screeching noise, like a banshee, tore through the air. Muscular roared, clutching his ears. Even his muscle armor couldn't protect his eardrums. Aya! My ears! You cheap little! Izuku moved. He didn't run. He sprinted with the desperation of a starving animal. He dove for the beam katana. His hand closed around the grip. It felt like shaking hands with an old friend. He rolled to his feet. He didn't attack immediately. He shook the controller. Up and down. Fast. Furious. Charge. 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 Batteries at 120%, Izuku hissed. Overcharge mode. Safety limiters disengaged. The green blade erupted again, but this time it was longer, thicker, pulsating with an unstable white core. The heat was intense enough to singe Izuku's eyebrows. Muscular recovered, blinking the spots from his vision. He looked pissed. I'm going to paste you. He enveloped his entire body in muscle fibers. He looked like a tank made of meat. He charged, tearing up the floor as he ran. Izuku took a deep breath. Time seemed to slow down. He could see the twitch of Muscular's fibers. He could see the pattern. He protects his chest. He sacrifices mobility for armor. He commits fully to the forward momentum. Izuku started muttering, the words spilling out like a spell. Velocity is mass times acceleration. If I meet his force directly, I lose. I need to deflect. Redirect. The fibers have a refresh rate. If I burn them faster than they grow. Muscular leaped, bringing both fists down in a hammer smash. Izuku didn't dodge. He stepped into the guard. Smash! Izuku screamed. He swung the katana in a vertical arc. He didn't aim for the body. He aimed for the attack. The supercharged beam met Muscular's fists. Krakum. The sound was deafening. Energy met biology. The smell of burning meat filled the atrium. What? Muscular screamed. The beam was cutting. It was slicing through the outer layer, the inner layer, the bone. Izuku gritted his teeth, his arms shaking violently. The feedback was tearing his muscles apart. One for all. Full cowling. It was a nonsense phrase, a name for a power he never got, but it gave him rhythm. He pushed the blade harder. With a wet, sizzling tearing sound, Muscular's forearms were severed. Muscular stared at his stumps in shock. The blood didn't spray immediately. The wounds were cauterized. My arms. You're open, Izuku said cold. He spun. The dark step. A technique of pure evasion and counterattack. He was behind Muscular in an instant. He reversed the grip on the katana. Goodbye, rank 10. Izuku thrust the blade backward, driving it through Muscular's spine, out through his chest. Muscular gasped, his eyes going wide. The massive muscle fibers began to unravel, losing their tension. He fell to his knees. Izuku ripped the blade out and swung it one last time, a horizontal slash. The head of Goto Imasuji slid off his shoulders. Silence returned to the construction site. The rain drummed on the roof. The body slumped forward with a heavy thud. Izuku stood there, panting. His chest heaved. His hands were blistered from the heat of the handle. He stared at the body. He waited to feel triumph. He waited to feel justice. He felt nothing. Just exhaustion. And the smell of ozone. He deactivated the blade. The darkness rushed back in. His phone buzzed. He pulled it out with trembling fingers. A notification flashed on the screen. Ranking update. Previous rank, unranked. Current rank, 10. Bounty claimed, 5 million yen. 5 million, Izuku whispered. He did the math instantly. After Sylvia's cut, taxes, equipment repairs, and the hospital bill, I have enough for rent and 3 months of dialysis. He slumped against a concrete pillar and slid down until he was sitting in the mud. He looked at the headless corpse of the man who had terrorized the city. Mom, Izuku whispered to the empty room. I got a promotion. The cleanup crew, a subdivision of the UAA, arrived 20 minutes later. They were efficient, silent men in hazmat suits who dissolved the body and scrubbed the blood. Izuku didn't watch. He rode his scooter back to the No More Dreams motel in the rain. He stopped at a convenience store on the way. He bought a frozen bento box and a new pack of batteries. When he got back to his room, he stripped off his ruined jacket and threw it in the corner. He went to the bathroom. The toilet was an old, porcelain model that constantly ran. He sat on the lid. This was his ritual. His save point. He took out his notebook. He turned to the page labeled Muscular. He took a red marker and drew a thick X over the photo. Underneath, he wrote, Weakness, Overconfidence. Result, terminated. He turned the page. Rank 9 spinner. Location, subways. Weapon, giant sword. Izuku stared at the name. He knew Spinner. Another stained fanatic. Another lost soul. He felt a wave of nausea. He rushed to the sink and dry heaved. He washed his face with cold, rusty water. He looked at himself in the mirror. His eyes were green, but they looked darker now. Harder. No turning back, he told his reflection. He walked back into the main room. He picked up the Detroit Smash and set it on the workbench. He grabbed a screwdriver. The emitter loop was unstable, he muttered, his voice finding that familiar, comforting cadence of analysis. If I reroute the bypass circuit, I can increase cutting power by 12% without overheating. I need to visit May tomorrow. She has those titanium capacitors. Izuku Midoriya, the number 10 assassin, picked up his soldering iron. Outside, the neon lights of Santa Destroy flickered. Somewhere in a high-rise penthouse, Sylvia Crystal moved a magnet with a picture of a green bunny up one spot on a magnetic whiteboard. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of the city, a blond man with an explosion quirk sneezed, looked at his own jagged sword, and grinned. The game had just begun. The morning sun over Santa Destroy didn't sparkle. It glared. It bounced off the chrome bumpers of lowriders and the shattered glass of storefronts, piercing through the thin, moth-eaten curtains of the No More Dreams motel. Izuku Midoriya woke up not with a start, but with a groan. His body felt like it had been put through a trash compactor. His ribs, fractured by muscular sledgehammer blows, were currently held together by a cocktail of regenerative nanites he'd bought off the dark web and a very tight ace bandage. He rolled out of bed, his feet hitting the sticky linoleum. He checked his phone. Notification. UAA rank verification complete. Current rank, 10. Account balance, 4,200 yen. Izuku stared at the number. 4,200 yen. That was roughly $40. Wait, he rasped, his voice still recovering from the smoke inhalation of the Kamino ward. I made 5 million yen last night. He frantically tapped into the transaction history. 2,500,000 yen. UAA association fee, rank 10 bracket. 1,500,000 yen. Agent commission, Sylvia Crystal standard rate. 800,000 yen. Santa Destroy General Hospital, dialysis treatment Inco Midoriya 3 months advance. 150,000 yen. Cleanup cruise service charge, muscular corpse disposal. 45,800 yen. Late fee for motel rent. Izuku dropped the phone on the mattress. He sat there, shirtless, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that looked vaguely like a crying All Might. I killed a man, Izuku whispered to the empty room. I defeated a villain the pro-heroes couldn't catch for 5 years. I climbed the ranks of the underworld. He stood up and walked to the kitchenette, opening the fridge. It contained a single, expired carton of milk and a jar of pickles, and I can't afford breakfast. The life of a ranked assassin wasn't glamorous. It was a gig economy nightmare with a body count. If he wanted to fight rank 9, he needed the entry fee. If he wanted to survive rank 9, he needed to upgrade the battery efficiency on the Detroit Smash. The Mark III had nearly exploded in his hand during the muscular fight. He needed cash. Fast. Izuku sighed and walked over to his closet. He pushed aside the blood-stained green jacket and the Kevlar vest. He reached for the other uniform. The one that humiliated him more than being quirkless ever did, bright orange. Polyester. Tight in the crotch. On the back, an embroidered logo of a sexualized pizza slice winking. Time to save the world, Izuku muttered, pulling on the cap. 1 pepperoni at a time. Pizza bat. Fresh and hot. If ID ain't here in 30, you don't pay a squat. The manager of Pizza Bat was a man named Mr. Blackhole. He was a large, spherical man who wore a luchador mask and smelled of oregano and engine grease. He slapped a stack of pizza boxes onto the counter, nearly crushing Izuku's fingers. You're late, Greenie. Blackhole roared. We got orders piling up. The Yakuza over in District 4 ordered 20 meat mountain specials. And if they get cold, they cut my fingers off, which means I cut your fingers off. Yes, sir, Izuku said, adjusting his cap. He grabbed the thermal bags. District 4. The red light sector. Traffic is heavy this time of day. Did I ask for a traffic report? Blackhole leaned over the counter. I asked for speed. Use that scooter of yours. And don't spill the sauce, or it comes out of your check. Izuku hauled the pizzas out the back door to the alleyway. His scooter, the Yui Crawler, was leaning against a dumpster. It was a monstrosity of a vehicle, a vintage moped frame that Izuku had reinforced with scrap metal and a stolen nitro booster. It was painted green, naturally. He strapped the oversized pizza box to the back rack. He put on his helmet, which had custom rabbit ears welded onto the top. Okay, Izuku muttered, his eyes narrowing as he engaged his combat analysis mode. Destination: the Shai Hasaikai hideout disguised as a laundry mat. Distance: 4.5 kilometers. Obstacles: rush hour traffic, rival gangs, and pedestrian incompetence. He kicked the starter. The engine screamed to life. Vroom. Izuku peeled out of the alley, the back wheel drifting on a patch of oil. The streets of Santa Destroy were a sensory overload. Neon signs for dubious products flashed in the daylight. Palm trees swayed in the smog. Izuku weaved through traffic like a needle through fabric. Scenario: red light ahead. Crossing traffic density is high. Izuku didn't brake. He saw a ramp, a conveniently placed delivery truck with its gate down. Smash, he whispered. He gunned the throttle. The scooter hit the ramp and launched into the air. Izuku flew over the intersection, the Pizza Bat theme song blaring from the scooter's speakers. Below him, cars honked and pedestrians screamed. He landed hard, the suspension groaning, but kept his momentum. Left turn in 200 meters, he calculated. Wait. Construction. A road crew was blocking the street. A normal delivery boy would deter. Izuku Midoriya was currently ranked 10 in the United Assassins Association. He hopped the curb onto the sidewalk. Excuse me. Pizza coming through. Hot cheese. Dangerously hot cheese. Pedestrians dove into bushes. A businessman dropped his briefcase. Izuku rode along a stone wall, defying gravity for 3 seconds, before dropping back onto the asphalt past the construction. He arrived at the Yakuza front with 2 minutes to spare. He skidded to a halt, the tires smoking. He grabbed the pizzas and kicked the door open. The room went silent. It was filled with men in sharp suits with tattoos creeping up their necks. They were cleaning guns. Pizza bat, Izuku announced, his voice cracking slightly. A large man with a beak mask walked forward. You're late. I have 2 minutes, Izuku said, tapping his watch. Total time, 28 minutes. That's 12,000 yen, please. The Yakuza member stared at him. Then he looked at the pizzas. He opened a box. The steam rose up. The cheese was intact. Humph. The man threw a wad of cash at Izuku. Keep the change. Get out before we use you for target practice. Izuku caught the money with a reflex speed that made the Yakuza member blink. Thank you for choosing Pizza Bat. He backed out of the room, bowed, and sprinted to his scooter. By 4 p.m., Izuku was exhausted. He smelled like garlic and exhaust fumes. But his pocket was heavy with cash. He had run 12 deliveries, accepted 3 extra missions, which included collecting scorpions in the desert for a traditional medicine shop and scrubbing graffiti off a rival gang's turf, and had barely avoided being run over by a semi-truck. He sat on a bench near the beach, counting his earnings. 150,000 yen, he muttered. It's enough for the entry fee. But not the upgrade. Hey, nerd. Izuku jumped, nearly dropping his cash. He looked up to see a familiar silhouette blocking the sun. Katsuki Bakugo stood there. He was wearing a black tank top with a skull on it, cargo pants, and combat boots. A massive, jagged sword was strapped to his back, the howitzer impact. He was holding a melting ice cream cone. Kaken, Izuku said, tensing up. I saw the rankings. You're number 6 now? You killed Death Arms? He was slow, Bakugo scoffed, biting into the ice cream. Like you? I saw you delivering pizzas, Deku. Is this a joke? You beat Muscular and now you're an Uber Eats driver? I have bills, Izuku said defensively, shoving the money into his pocket. Not everyone has sponsors. Bakugo kicked the bench. I don't have sponsors. I rob the people I kill. It's efficient. You're too soft for this business. You're playing at being an assassin, just like you played at being a hero. I'm rank 10, Izuku said quietly. Rank 10 is trash, Bakugo spat. Muscular was a meathead. The real monsters are higher up. You think you can analyze your way through them? You think muttering will stop a blade from taking your head off? Bakugo leaned down, his face inches from Izuku's. His red eyes were burning. Quit now, Deku. Before I have to be the one to kill you. I don't want your blood on my resume. It looks bad to kill the help. Bakugo turned and walked away, tossing the rest of his ice cream into the sand. Izuku watched him go. His heart was pounding. Not from fear, but from something else. Adrenaline. I need that upgrade, Izuku said. The garage was located in the industrial district, a maze of corrugated iron and rusting smokestacks. The sign above the door read, Hatsum Industries, and Baby Care. Izuku knocked. The metal door slid open with a screech. A girl with pink dreadlocks and goggles that magnified her eyes to cartoonish proportions poked her head out. She was covered in grease. We're closed unless you have cash or explosives. She yelled. It's me, Mei, Izuku said. Izuku! Mei Hatsum shrieked. She grabbed him by the collar of his pizza uniform and dragged him inside. My favorite guinea pig. Did you test the MK3? Did it explode? Did you lose a hand? Tell me you lost a hand. I have a new robotic one I'm dying to test. I still have both hands, Izuku said, pulling away gently. But the MK3 overheated. It almost melted during the muscular fight. I need better cooling, Mei. and better battery efficiency. The workshop was a chaotic wonderland. Half-built robots hung from the ceiling. A jet engine was being used as a coffee table. The air smelled of solder and burned hair. Mei hopped onto a workbench, crossing her legs. She looked Izuku up and down. You took down Muscular with my baby? Ooh, that's good data. But cooling is expensive. Titanium heat sinks, liquid nitrogen core loop. That's top-shelf stuff. I have... Izuku checked his pocket. I have 150,000 yen, Mei laughed. That buys you a AA battery and a high five. The upgrade you want is 500,000 yen. Izuku's shoulders slumped. I don't have it. I have the rank fight tonight. If I go in with the MK3 as is, I'll die. Mei tapped her chin with a wrench. Her eyes zoomed in and out on him. You're good for business, though. If you die, nobody buys my babies. Tell you what. I'll do the upgrade for cheap, but you have to do a side job for me. What kind of job? Izuku asked warily. I need a rare material, Mei said, grinning maniacally. There's a junk heap in the subway tunnels. An old pre-Quark-era train engine. It has a flux capacitor core. Or maybe it's just a really good magnet. I want it. The subway tunnels? Izuku froze. My next target is in the subway. 2 birds, 1 stone. Mei clapped. You get me the core, I upgrade your sword right now on credit. You pay me double after you win. Izuku hesitated. Debt was dangerous in the UAA. But facing rank 9 without a working weapon was suicide. Deal, Izuku said. He unclipped the Detroit Smash from his belt and handed it to her. Mei snatched it like a hungry goblin. Oh, look at you, you dirty little thing, she cooed at the weapon. Mama's going to make you scream. She looked at Izuku. Sit down. Don't touch anything. If you touch the red button, we all explode. For the next hour, Izuku watched Mei work. She was a blur of motion, sparks flying as she cut into the casing of his beam katana. She rewired the energy flow, swapped out the emitter lens, and installed a strange, glowing blue canister into the hilt. Done! Mei announced, holding up the weapon. It looked sleeker now. The grip was wrapped in a new, rubberized material. The Detroit Smash MK4, Mei declared. I call it the Green Shoot Edition. Improved energy recycling. It gains charge from kinetic impact. The more you hit, the more charge you get. Don't stop hitting or it dies. Izuku took it. It felt lighter. Balanced. Thank you, Mei. Get me that core, she yelled as he walked out. And try not to bleed on the merchandise. Izuku's phone rang as he stepped out of the garage. It was Sylvia. Hey, hero, her voice purred. I hope you're not still delivering pizzas. You have a date. I'm ready, Izuku said. He was back in his assassin gear, the green jacket, now patched with duct tape, the red shoes, the knee pads. Rank 9, Sylvia said. His name is Spinner. Real name, Shuichi Iguchi. He's a fanatic. Worships the hero killer stain. You know the type? Reads the manifesto, buys the merch, misses the point entirely. I know him, Izuku said. He's been active in the underground forums. He calls himself the cosplaying disciple. He's hijacked the Santa Destroy loop line, Sylvia said. Train 666. It's running on a continuous loop around the city. No passengers, just him and his shrine. He says he won't stop the train until true heroes acknowledge him. Or until someone kills him, Izuku said. Bingo. Meet him at the Central Station platform. The train passes every 12 minutes. Don't miss it, Sylvia. Izuku paused. Does he really believe it? Believe what? That he's purging the world? Sylvia laughed, but it was softer this time. Everyone in Santa Destroy believes they're the protagonist, Deku. Even the villains. Especially the villains. Don't let him monologue, or you'll die of boredom. Click. The subway station was abandoned, lit only by flickering fluorescent strips that buzzed like trapped insects. Graffiti covered every inch of tile. Heroes are fake. Stain was right. Blood for blood. Izuku stood on the edge of the platform. He could feel the vibration before he heard the sound. A low rumble, growing into a roar. The wind picked up, smelling of ozone and rot. Train arriving in 10 seconds. Izuku crouched. He didn't have a ticket. The train burst out of the tunnel, a blur of silver and rust. It wasn't slowing down. It was moving at easily 120 kilometers per hour. Timing, Izuku muttered. Velocity vector. He jumped. It was a reckless, insane leap. He aimed for an open maintenance hatch on the roof of the third car. He hit the metal roof with a clang, the wind threatening to rip him off. He drove his fingers into the gaps of the metal, his gloves tearing. He held on. The world blurred past him, tunnel lights streaking like laser fire. He crawled toward the hatch. He dropped inside. The interior of the train car had been gutted. The seats were gone. The walls were covered in posters of Stain, the noseless, bandana-wearing vigilante who had terrorized Japan years ago. Candles flickered in the corners, somehow staying lit despite the speed. At the far end of the car, sitting on a throne made of welded scrap metal, was Spinner. He looked like a lizard man, with green scales and pink hair pulled back. He wore a replica of Stain's outfit, the tattered scarf, the tactical vest, the combat boots. But where Stain was lean and terrifying, Spinner looked bulky. Cluttered. He held a massive sword. It was a monstrosity created by binding dozens of smaller swords, knives, and machetes together with chains and leather. It looked like a junkyard frozen in the shape of a blade. I sensed a false hero, Spinner hissed. His voice was raspy, an imitation of Stain's growl. He stood up, hefting the giant sword with surprising ease. Shuichi Iguchi, Izuku said, standing up and drawing the Detroit smash. Rank 9. Call me Spinner. The lizard screamed. I am the vessel of his will. I am the blade that purges the corruption. You are just a child playing dress-up. We're both playing dress-up, Izuku said calmly. But I'm getting paid for it. Filth. Spinner roared. Capitalist filth. Stain preached conviction. You fight for money. You represent everything wrong with this society, Spinner charged. The fight began not with a clash of steel, but with a collapse of space. The train car was narrow. Spinner's sword was huge. He swung the massive junk blade horizontally. It scraped against the walls, sparks showering down like fireworks. Too big, Izuku analyzed. He has no room to maneuver. Izuku slid underneath the swing, the wind of the blade ruffling his hair. He came up and slashed with the Detroit smash. Zjism. The green beam cut into the side of Spinner's sword. Chains snapped. A few rusty knives fell off the conglomerate weapon and clattered to the floor. Your weapon is a mess, Izuku stated, hopping backward as Spinner brought the sword down in a vertical chop. The blade smashed through the floor of the train, grinding against the tracks below. Sparks erupted from the floor. It is a tribute! Spinner yelled, struggling to pull the heavy blade free. It is the weight of the fallen. The weight of their ideology. It's just heavy, Izuku said. He rushed in. He swung the beam katana. Slash. Slash. Thrust. May's upgrade was working. The blade felt responsive. Every time it connected with Spinner's armor or weapon, the hum grew louder. The green shoot energy recycling. Spinner abandoned his stuck sword. He reached into his vest and pulled out a smaller, curved dagger. He moved faster now, his lizard physiology giving him agility that matched his conviction. Stain's technique. Spinner screamed. He wall-jumped, clinging to the ceiling of the train car with his claws. Stain used misdirection, Izuku muttered, tracking him. You're just using gravity. Spinner dropped, dagger aimed at Izuku's throat. Izuku sidestepped, but the train lurched as it hit a curve. Izuku stumbled. Spinner's dagger slashed across Izuku's shoulder. The Kevlar ripped. Blood sprayed. I have drawn blood. Spinner shrieked in ecstasy. Now you will be paralyzed. That is his power. Izuku winced, clutching his shoulder. He waited for the paralysis. He waited to freeze. Nothing happened. You don't have his quirk, Izuku said, looking at the lizard man. You just have his knife. Spinner froze. His eyes widened. The realization seemed to hurt him more than a blade. It doesn't matter. The will is what matters. I am carrying his legacy. You're carrying his baggage, Izuku said. The train exited the tunnel and shot onto an elevated track above the city. Sunlight flooded the car, illuminating the dust and blood. Spinner looked desperate. He looked at his hands. He looked at the posters of Stain on the walls. I am significant, Spinner yelled, tears forming in his reptilian eyes. Before this, I was nothing. A shut-in. A gamer. Nobody looked at me. Stain gave me a purpose. Don't you dare take that from me. He grabbed the giant junk sword again, ripping it from the floor with a scream of pure exertion. Final purge. Spinner spun. He turned himself into a tornado of steel. The giant sword swung around, destroying the seats, the windows, the walls. The roof of the train car began to peel back like a sardine can. Izuku stood his ground. The wind buffeted him. Analysis: he's overexerting. He's unbalanced. The train is taking a sharp right turn in 300 meters. I understand, Izuku said softly. You wanted to be a hero. But you chose the wrong idol. Izuku sheathed the beam katana. He didn't run away. He ran toward the spinning vortex of blades. Are you crazy? Spinner screamed, seeing the boy charge. Izuku ducked low, sliding on his knees under the rotational arc of the giant sword. He entered Spinner's guard. He stood up, face to face with the lizard. One for all. 5%. Detroit smash. It wasn't a sword strike. It was a punch. Izuku drove his fist into Spinner's gut. The impact lifted Spinner off his feet. The giant sword flew from his hands, smashing through the back of the train car and tumbling onto the tracks behind them. Spinner slammed into the wall, collapsing into a heap. The train rattled on. The tornado stopped. Izuku stood over him. He drew the beam katana again. The green light hummed, casting a shadow over Spinner's face. Spinner coughed, blood leaking from his mouth. He looked up at Izuku. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked tired. I'm a fake, Spinner whispered. Aren't I? Izuku looked at him. He saw the reflection of himself. The boy who worshipped All Might. The boy who bought the merch. The boy who wanted to be something he wasn't. We all start as fakes, Izuku said. But you have to know when the game is over. Did I? Spinner's voice trembled. Did I at least look cool? Izuku paused. He looked at the destroyed train car. He looked at the conviction in the dying man's eyes. Yeah, Izuku lied. You looked terrifying. Spinner smiled. It was a grotesque, bloody smile, but it was genuine. Stain watched me. Izuku raised the blade. Flash. The head of Shuichi Iguchi rolled onto the floor. The train slowed down as it approached the depot. Izuku sat on the floor, next to the body. He felt hollow. Killing Muscular had felt like survival. Killing Spinner felt like putting down a sick dog. He looked around the car. He saw a loose panel on the engine block at the front of the car. The core, he remembered. He pried the panel open. Inside, glowing with a soft blue light, was a magnetic flux stabilizer. The thing May wanted. He yanked it out. The train came to a halt. The doors hissed open. Sylvia was waiting on the platform, holding an umbrella to shield herself from the sun. She looked at the carnage inside the train, the headless body, the shredded metal, the blood. She whistled. Messy, she said. But effective. Rank 9 achieved. Izuku stepped off the train. He walked past her without stopping. Where are you going? Sylvia asked. We have paperwork. I have a delivery to make, Izuku said, holding up the core. You're a strange one, Deku, Sylvia called after him. Most people celebrate after a win. You look like you just failed a math test. Izuku stopped. He looked back at her. Spinner wasn't a villain, Izuku said. He was just a fan who got lost. And what are you? Sylvia asked, her eyes sharp. Izuku touched the hilt of his sword. I'm the one who cleans up the mess. Epilogue. Later that night, Izuku sat in the alley behind Pizza Bat, eating a rejected pepperoni slice. His phone buzzed. Ranking update. Current rank 9. Bounty claimed 3 million yen. He transferred half of it to Mei Hatsum instantly. He opened his notebook. He turned to the page for rank 9. He drew an X over Spinner's face. He didn't write terminated. He wrote, rest in peace. He looked up at the sky. The stars were invisible behind the smog of Santa Destroy. Gentle criminal. Izuku read the next name on the list. Rank 8. He closed the book. He finished his pizza. The nerd stood up, wiped the crumbs from his mouth, and walked into the neon night. The beam katana at his hip felt heavier than before, but his grip was tighter. He was learning. Not how to be a hero, but how to survive being a protagonist. The internet was a mistake. Izuku Midoriya sat on the toilet of room 203 in the No More Dreams motel. The porcelain was cold, the water in the bowl ran with a persistent trickle, and the neon sign outside buzzed in a rhythm that felt like a migraine waiting to happen. He wasn't using the facilities. He was saving his game. In the twisted reality of the United Assassins Association, saving meant uploading his consciousness logs to the central server via a localized Neuralink terminal that, for reasons only Sylvia Crystal understood, was installed in the flush handle of every assassin's toilet. Game saved. Current rank 9. Status: alive. Unfortunately, he swiped the holographic display away and opened the UAA public forum on his phone. It was a habit he knew he should break. Thread: rank 9 Deku vs Spinner. Who won? User Killcross69 saw the footage. The lizard got wrecked. But this new guy, Deku? He fights like a coward. Too much dodging. No style points. User Beam Katana fan. His sword is trash. Looks like a flashlight taped to a car battery. Where's the elegance? Where's the chrome? User Stain was right. He killed a true believer. Deku is just another corporate shill. Izuku sighed, scrolling past a comment that suggested he should commit Sudoku. The user clearly meant seppuku, but spelling wasn't a requirement for hate speech. They don't know, Izuku whispered, rubbing the dark circles under his eyes. They don't know the smell of burned ozone. They don't know how heavy a head is when it rolls. He stood up, flushing the toilet out of habit. The water swirled, taking his anxiety with it, only for it to refill moments later. His phone buzzed. Not a forum notification. A job offer. Side job available. Hazmat cleanup. Location: Dagoba Municipal Beach. Objective: clear radioactive waste barrels illegally dumped by Creati Corp. Payout: 80,000 yen. Izuku grabbed his green jacket. He needed the money. The entry fee for rank 8 was steep, and Mei Hatsum had sent him an invoice for emotional damages caused by him almost getting killed with her weapon. Dagoba Beach was once a beautiful stretch of coastline. Now, it was a mountain of trash, jagged metal, and glowing green ooze. It was the perfect metaphor for sand to destroy. Izuku wore a yellow hazmat suit he'd rented from a vending machine. He was currently wrestling a barrel of toxic sludge up a steep dune of tires. Lift with the legs, he muttered. Engage core. Hero analysis. All might clear this beach in 10 months. I have 4 hours. He heaved the barrel into the disposal truck. The Geiger counter on his wrist clicked frantically. Hey! Greenie! The foreman, a man with a mutation that gave him 4 arms, waved a clipboard. You missed a spot. There's a nest of mutated crabs by the shoreline. Clear 'em out or no pay. Izuku wiped sweat from his brow inside the helmet. Mutated crabs. Of course. He walked down to the water. The crabs were the size of hubcaps, with shells that gleamed with iridescent oil. They clicked their claws menacingly. Izuku didn't draw his beam katana. Using a high-energy weapon near volatile waste was a bad idea. Instead, he picked up a rusted iron pipe. Sorry, he said to the crabs. I need the yen. He moved with the fluidity of a rank climber. Whack. Crack. Dodge. He flipped over a pincer strike and swept the legs of the largest crab. It was a grim, silent dance. He wasn't killing villains here. He was just surviving the ecosystem. By the time he finished, the sun was high and unforgiving. He stripped off the hazmat suit, collected his meager pay, and sat on the seawall. He looked at the horizon. Somewhere out there, beyond the smog, was the pristine city where real heroes lived. Where Lemillion and Endeavor saved cats from trees and stopped bank robbers with smiles. Here, Izuku cleaned slime and killed dreamers. Enjoying the view? Izuku didn't flinch. He recognized the scent of expensive perfume mixed with tobacco. Sylvia Crystal stood behind him, leaning against a pile of crushed cars. She was wearing a Victorian-style dress today, complete with a lace parasol. It looked ridiculous against the backdrop of garbage, but she wore it with lethal confidence. It smells like sulfur and regret, Izuku said, not turning around. That's the smell of money, darling, Sylvia said, stepping over a dead crab. I have your next date. Rank 8. I just paid off May, Izuku said wearily. Can I have a week? The UAA doesn't do vacations. The audience gets bored, Sylvia twirled her parasol. And this one? Oh, the audience is going to love this one. He's a streamer. Izuku looked up. A streamer? Danjuro Tabita. Goes by Gentle Criminal. Currently rank 8. He and his partner, La Brava, run the most popular murder stream on the dark web. They call it the Gentleman's Guide to Evisceration. Partner? Izuku frowned. It's a 2-on-1? Technically, La Brava is his support. She films, she edits, she hacks. But don't underestimate her. She's the brain, he's the body. They're inseparable. It's sickeningly romantic. Sylvia handed him a heavy, cream-colored envelope sealed with red wax. They invited you to a tea party. Izuku broke the seal. The card inside was gold-leafed. Dearest Mr. Deku, we have observed your ascent with great interest. Your lack of elegance is appalled, yet your efficacy is undeniable. We invite you to the estate of the Gilded Lily for a master class in etiquette. Please bring your weapon, and do try to dress appropriately. Yours in violence, Gentle La Brava. He's in the hills, Sylvia said, pointing to the wealthy district that overlooked the slums. Big mansion. Lots of traps. Try not to bleed on the carpet, it's imported. Why do they do it? Izuku asked. Muscular wanted blood. Spinner wanted a cause. What does Gentle want? Sylvia smiled, but her eyes were cold. Views Deku. He wants to be remembered. In this world, you're either a celebrity or a statistic. He chose celebrity. The mansion looked like it had been ripped out of 19th century Europe and dropped onto a cliff in Japan. It was surrounded by iron gates, gargoyles, and perfectly manicured hedges that Izuku suspected were poisonous. Izuku rode the UA crawler up the winding driveway. The scooter sputtered, struggling with the incline. He parked it next to a gold-plated limousine. He checked his equipment. The Detroit Smash Mk4 was fully charged. The green chute capacitor May had installed glowed softly. He wore his standard gear, the green jumpsuit, the iron-soled sneakers. He hadn't dressed up. He pushed open the massive oak doors. Welcome, the voice boomed from hidden speakers. Izuku stepped into a grand foyer. A chandelier the size of a small car hung overhead. The floor was black and white marble. I am Gentle Criminal, the voice announced. And today, we have a very special guest for our 500th episode. The Corkless Wonder. The Green Ghost. DKU. A drone buzzed past Izuku's head, a red light blinking. A camera. You're live, Izuku muttered. He hated cameras. Step forward, dear boy. The tea is steeping. Izuku walked through the hallway. The walls were lined with portraits of Gentle in various poses of triumph over other assassins. In one, he was bowing over the body of a ninja. In another, he was toasting with a wine glass over a burning tank. Izuku reached the main ballroom. It was an expansive space, cleared of furniture except for a single round table in the center. Sitting there was a man in a high-collared purple coat. He had white hair, a meticulously groomed mustache, and eyes that looked tired despite his smile. Next to him, floating on a specialized hover chair, was a diminutive woman with red hair, typing furiously on a holographic keyboard. La Brava, how are the numbers? Gentle asked, not looking at Izuku yet. Viewer count is spiking, Gentle. The woman squeaked. We're trending 1 in the violent arts category. Everyone wants to see the boy who killed Muscular. Gentle stood up. He bowed deeply, one hand behind his back. Mr. Deku. Thank you for accepting our invitation. I trust the journey was pleasant. No trouble with the peasantry at the gate? I climbed the fence, Izuku said, his hand hovering over his katana hilt. Cut the pleasantries. Rank 8. Gentle sighed, adjusting his cravat. So crude. No banter? No repartee? This is why you have no brand identity, my boy. You treat death like a chore. For us, he gestured to the drone hovering above them. It is an art form. Arts and crafts time is over, Izuku said. He drew the Detroit smash. Zhizhum. The green blade ignited. The hum echoed in the empty ballroom. La Brava, Gentle said softly. Start the music. Something classical. A waltz began to play over the speakers. Shall we dance? Gentle asked. Izuku didn't wait. He dashed forward. Dark step. He closed the 20-meter gap in a heartbeat. He swung the beam katana in a horizontal slash, aiming for Gentle's midsection. Gentle didn't dodge. He held up his hands, palms facing out. Gently rebound. The air in front of Gentle shimmered. It looked like a heat haze. Izuku's blade hit the air. Boing. There was no resistance. There was no cut. Instead, a massive kinetic force repelled the blade. The katana bounced back with twice the speed Izuku had swung it. Whoa! Izuku cried out, the recoil throwing him off balance. He stumbled backward. My quirk, Gentle explained, dusting off his lapel. Elasticity. I can bestow the property of elasticity to anything I touch. The ground. The walls. Even the air itself. He tapped the air again. An invisible trampoline formed. Gentle jumped onto it, bouncing high into the air, defying gravity. Aerial combat? Izuku muttered. Okay. I can do air. Izuku engaged the thrusters on his boots. Small microjets May had installed for emergency maneuvering. He launched himself upward. Gentle was waiting. He touched the air around him, creating a maze of invisible rubber walls. Izuku swung. Bounce. He kicked. Bounce. Every attack was returned to sender. It was like fighting a mirror that punched back. Too slow. Gentle laughed. He bounced off an air wall, accelerating like a pinball. Pinky smash. He dove at Izuku. Izuku raised his katana to block. Gentle hit the blade, but instead of being cut, the air around his fist turned elastic. He bounced off the blade, looped around in a blur, and kicked Izuku in the back of the head. Izuku crashed into the marble floor. But the floor didn't crack. It bent. I've elasticized the floor too. Gentle crowed. Izuku bounced off the floor like a ragdoll, flying straight up into the ceiling. And the ceiling, thwack. Izuku hit the ceiling, bounced down, hit the floor, and bounced up again. He was trapped in a kinetic loop, being dribbled like a basketball by the environment itself. Nausea levels rising, Izuku groaned, spinning in midair. Cannot stabilize. Look at him go! La Brava cheered from the sidelines, her fingers flying across her keyboard. Donations are pouring in. User Almighty Fan says, stop bullying the green kid. We are not bullying. Gentle shouted, bouncing off a wall to intercept Izuku. We are educating. Gentle grabbed Izuku mid-bounce and threw him. Izuku flew across the room, smashing through a buffet table. Silverware and pastries exploded everywhere. Izuku skidded to a halt, wiping cream puff filling and blood from his cheek. Analysis, he muttered frantically. He creates boundaries. But the elasticity has a limit. It absorbs kinetic energy to reflect it. If the energy input exceeds the tensile strength of the air membrane, muttering won't save you. Gentle landed gracefully. La Brava! Phase 2. The audience demands a twist. La Brava adjusted her glasses. Her eyes glowed. Initiating system hack. Love is the ultimate code breaker. Izuku stood up, gripping his sword. I just need to hit harder. Overcharge mode. He reached for the throttle on the handle. Suddenly, the green beam flickered. It turned from green to a sickly purple. Then it vanished. PZZT. What? Izuku shook the handle. Battery is at 80%. What's wrong? A holographic projection appeared from his sword's emitter. It was a pixelated heart. Voice command. Love, love, beam. The sword's speaker synthesized a cutesy voice. What is this? Izuku yelled. I'm in your firmware, sweetie. La Brava shouted from her chair. That flux capacitor you installed? It has a Wi-Fi receiver. Who puts Wi-Fi on a sword? Honestly, May Hatsum is a genius, but she has zero cybersecurity awareness. She hacked the sword? Izuku stared at the weapon. The beam reignited, but it was floppy. The energy blade drooped like a wet noodle. Try cutting me with that. Gentle laughed. He charged. Izuku swung the floppy beam. It slapped harmlessly against Gentle's coat. Gentle punched Izuku in the gut. Izuku wheezed, doubling over. He rolled backward, dodging a stomp. Restart system. Izuku yelled at the sword. Access denied? Please subscribe to Gentle Criminal's Patreon to unlock lethal force. You monetized my weapon? Izuku screamed. It's the gig economy, boy. Gentle bounced off the wall, coming in for a clothesline. Izuku dropped the katana. He didn't have a choice. He raised his bare fists. I don't need the sword to beat you, Izuku growled. He recalled his training. Not the sword training. The original training. The notes he took on close quarters combat. The way Ojiro used his tail. The way Mirio used his phasing. Gentle came in fast. Izuku predicted the bounce. Angle of incidence. Izuku stepped forward. He didn't aim for Gentle. He aimed for the invisible wall Gentle was about to use. Izuku kicked the air. He felt the resistance. The invisible rubber. He pushed off it, launching himself at a perpendicular angle to Gentle's trajectory. Gentle's eyes widened. He's using my platforms? Izuku tackled Gentle in midair. They crashed onto the marble floor, which was still bouncy. They tumbled together, a tangle of limbs. Izuku got the upper hand. He pinned Gentle down. He punched him in the face. Crack. Gentle's nose broke. How dare you! La Brava screamed. Get off him! The room began to shake. La Brava! Gentle yelled, blood streaming down his face. Lover mode! La Brava slammed a large red button on her console. My quirk! She screamed. Love! A pink aura erupted from La Brava and shot into Gentle. Gentle's muscles swelled. His eyes glowed pink. The air pressure in the room dropped. Power up! The drone announced. Gentle threw Izuku off him with a casual flick of his wrist. Izuku flew across the room and smashed into a stone pillar. The pillar cracked. This is the power of love! Gentle roared. He stood up, steam rising from his body. With her love, I am invincible. My elasticity is absolute. I can bounce back from anything. Even death. He looked at Izuku. You have no one, Deku. You fight for money. You fight for rank. You have no muse. That is why you will lose. Izuku stood up. His arm was hanging at a weird angle. Dislocated. He grabbed his shoulder and popped it back in with a sickening crunch. He screamed through his teeth. I have something you don't, Izuku panted. He looked at his glitching sword on the floor. I have a notebook. Izuku ran for the sword. Don't let him. La Brava yelled. She typed furiously. I'm deleting his OS. I'm breaking the device. Izuku slid across the floor, grabbing the handle. System deletion in 3, 2. Izuku reached into his pouch. He pulled out the only thing that wasn't digital, a screwdriver. He jammed the screwdriver into the exposed port of the flux capacitor, shattering the Wi-Fi receiver May had installed. Sparks flew. The holographic heart vanished. System reboot. Safe mode engaged. The beam ignited. It was thin, unstable, and jagged. But it was straight. Hardware override, Izuku whispered. Gentle was already in the air. He was bouncing so fast he was invisible, a pink blur ricocheting off every surface of the room, building up potential energy for one final strike. Gentle sandwich. Gentle screamed. He created an elastic layer on the floor and the ceiling, compressing the space. He was going to crush Izuku between two kinetic waves. Izuku closed his eyes. He didn't look at the blur. He listened to the sound. The thump-thump-thump of the bounces. Rhythm. 120 beats per minute. Accelerating. He's not random, Izuku muttered. He's performing. He's bouncing to the beat of the waltz. The music was still playing. The Blue Danube. Da-da-da-da-da. Boom. He'll strike on the crescendo, Izuku realized. Gentle came down from the ceiling like a meteor. Izuku didn't dodge. He planted his feet. He held the sword like a baseball bat. Batter up, Izuku whispered. He waited until the last millisecond. The air pressure was crushing him. He swung. He didn't swing at Gentle. He swung at the elastic air directly in front of him. He timed it perfectly to the compression of Gentle's quirk. Constructive interference. The energy of the beam katana met the energy of the elastic barrier at the exact moment of maximum tension. Pop! The air snapped. The elastic field ruptured. The backlash was catastrophic. The stored kinetic energy of 1,000 bounces had nowhere to go but back into the source. Gentle was hit by his own momentum, multiplied by the explosion of the air barrier. Impossible! Gentle screamed as he was launched backward. He flew across the room, smashing through 3 pillars, the grand piano, and finally embedding himself into the wall behind La Brava. The music stopped. The drone hovered silently. Gentle slumped out of the wall, falling to the floor. The pink aura faded. He was broken. Gentle! La Brava screamed. She abandoned her console and floated down to him. She cradled his head. Gentle! Danjuro! Please! Izuku walked toward them. The Detroit smash hummed low and menacing. Gentle coughed. Blood sprayed onto his white cravat. He looked at La Brava with a tender, dying smile. My dear, he wheezed. It seems our show has been cancelled. No! La Brava wept. You can't die. We have so many subscribers. We were going to drink tea in Paris. Izuku stopped 5 feet away. It's over, Izuku said. Gentle looked at Izuku. Finish it, boy. The rules of the UAA are absolute. The winner takes the rank. The loser takes the grave. No! La Brava stood up. She was tiny, trembling, but she spread her arms to shield Gentle. You'll have to kill me first. Izuku looked at her. He looked at the tears streaming down her face. He remembered Muscular. That was easy. Muscular was a monster. He remembered Spinner. That was pitiable. Spinner was lost. This was different. This was love. Twisted, criminal love, but love nonetheless. Izuku raised the sword. Move, he said cold. Never! La Brava screamed. Manami. Gentle whispered, using her real name. Move aside. Do not waste your life for a failed performer. You are my life! She cried. Izuku's hand shook. The beam katana wavered. Sylvia's voice echoed in his head. In this world, you're either a celebrity or a statistic. He couldn't do it. He couldn't cut through her to get to him. Suddenly, the drone overhead buzzed. A red laser sight appeared on La Brava's forehead. Violation detected, a robotic voice announced. Third-party interference. Initiating cleanup protocol. It was a UAA failsafe. If a battle dragged on or rules were broken, the association cleaned the slate. Sniper drone! Izuku yelled. La Brava froze, the laser dot dancing between her eyes. Gentle saw it too. His eyes widened. No! With a burst of strength he shouldn't have possessed, Gentle shoved La Brava aside. He used his quirk one last time, making the floor beneath her elastic, bouncing her away to safety. He took her place in the path of the laser. But Izuku moved faster. Izuku lunged. Not to save Gentle from the drone, but to end the fight before the drone fired. If the drone fired, they both died. If Izuku struck, only one died. Izuku thrust the beam katana forward. It pierced Gentle's chest. Gentle gasped. His hands gripped the energy blade. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. Thank you, Gentle whispered to Izuku. For saving her. The drone retracted its weapon. Winner confirmed. Gentle looked over Izuku's shoulder at La Brava, who was sobbing on the floor. Keep filming, my love, Gentle choked out. The show must go on. His eyes glazed over. His grip loosened. Izuku deactivated the blade. Gentle's body fell forward into his arms. Izuku caught him. He lowered the gentleman of death to the marble floor. It was silent. You monster! La Brava screamed. You killed him! You killed him! She scrambled backward, terrified, heartbroken. She reached for a hidden panel in the wall. An escape chute. Izuku didn't stop her. He stood there, covered in the blood of a man who just wanted to be seen. La Brava jumped into the chute. I'll kill you! I swear it! I'll hack your life apart. I'll destroy everything you love. Her voice faded away. Izuku was alone in the ballroom. Izuku walked out of the mansion an hour later. The sun was setting, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange. Sylvia was leaning against his scooter, smoking. Show's over? She asked. He's dead, Izuku said. His voice was flat. La Brava escaped. I know, Sylvia said. I let her go. She's good for ratings. A vengeful widow? The fans eat that stuff up. Izuku grabbed his helmet. He felt sick. He saved her, Izuku said. He died to save her. And you killed him, Sylvia said, blowing smoke rings. That makes you rank 8. She handed him a check. It was for a staggering amount of money. The ad revenue from the stream had been massive. You're trending, Deku, she smiled. #1 topic on Twitter. The tragedy of the gentleman. They're calling you the heartless hero. I'm not a hero, Izuku spat. No, Sylvia agreed. You're an assassin. And you're doing a great job. She opened the door of the limo. Get some rest. You look terrible. And fix your sword. The next one isn't going to be a tea party. Who is it? Izuku asked, straddling the scooter. Rank 7, Sylvia said, her expression darkening slightly. Tenya Ida? The turbo killer. Izuku froze. Ida? You know him? We went to middle school together, Izuku whispered. He was the class president. He wanted to be a lawyer. Well, Sylvia shrugged. Now he runs over people for a living. His brother got crippled by the UAA. He's on a warpath. And you're next on the list. She got in the car. Happy reunion, Deku. The limo drove off. Izuku sat on his scooter. He looked at the check in his hand. It was enough to pay for his mother's treatment for a year. It was blood money. He looked at the mansion one last time. The lights were out. The party was over. He put on his helmet with the rabbit ears. Ida, he whispered. He kicked the engine. Vroom. He rode down the hill, back toward the filth of Santa Destroy, leaving the gilded cage behind. Epilogue. Ranking update. Current rank 8. Bounty claimed. 12 million yen, stream bonus included. Back in room 203, Izuku didn't celebrate. He sat on the floor, surrounded by weapon parts. He was manually removing every wireless component from the Detroit Smash. He tore out the Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi, the near-field communication chips. Analog, he muttered. Everything analog. No more hacks. He looked at his notebook. Rank 8, gentle criminal. He picked up the red marker. His hand hovered over the page. He didn't cross it out. He wrote a small note in the margin. Lesson, conviction can be fatal. Love is a liability. He closed the book. He turned off the light. In the darkness, the green LED of his charging beam katana pulsed like a slow, dying heartbeat. Thump. 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 The road to rank 1 was getting steeper. And the blood was getting harder to wash off. The garage smelled of burning rubber and high-octane coffee. Izuku Midoriya stood in the center of Hatsum Industries, staring at his scooter. The UA crawler was no longer just a pizza delivery bike. It had been stripped down to its chassis, the frame reinforced with carbon nanotubes, and the engine replaced with something that looked suspiciously like a stolen jet turbine. It's ugly, Izuku said. It's aerodynamic. May Hatsum corrected, sliding out from under the vehicle on a creeper board. She was covered in grease, her goggles reflecting the harsh halogen lights. I removed the pizza box holder. Drag coefficient reduced by 40%. I added nitrous injectors directly into the intake manifold. And see those tires? Solid rubber compound with graphene spikes. You can drive up a wall if you hit it fast enough. And the weapon? Izuku asked, looking at the Detroit Smash MK4 resting on the workbench. Oh, the Green Shoot edition is holding up fine, May waved a wrench dismissively. But for this next guy? You said he's fast, right? Like break the sound barrier fast? Tenya Ida, Izuku said, the name heavy on his tongue. Rank 7. They call him the Turbo Killer. He's not just fast. He's a living projectile. Well, you can't hit what you can't catch, May grinned, revealing a gap in her teeth. So I made you a little present. I call it the Thunderclap attachment. She held up a small, cylindrical device that looked like a Tesla coil wrapped in barbed wire. It clips onto the emitter of your beam katana. When you clash with metal, like, say, a guy wearing engine armor, it discharges a 50,000 volt pulse. It won't kill him, but it'll fry his electronics. Engines hate electricity, Deku. It messes with the spark timing. Izuku took the device. It felt cold and heavy. Is it safe? Safe? Mei laughed maniacally. You're an assassin, Deku. Safe is for people who pay for insurance. Just don't use it while standing in a puddle, or you'll toast your own chestnuts. Izuku clipped the device onto his belt. He looked at the bike. Thanks, Mei. Put it on my tab. Your tab is getting huge, rank 8. Mei shouted as he mounted the bike. If you die, I'm repossessing your kidneys. Izuku kicked the starter. The new engine didn't purr, it shrieked. It sounded like a banshee trapped in a tin can. Re-scre. Let's go, Izuku whispered. He revved the throttle and shot out of the garage, leaving a trail of blue smoke and a very excited support engineer behind him. The Santa Destroy Expressway was a ribbon of concrete that coiled around the city like a snake. At night, it was a blur of red taillights and white headlights, a river of steel flowing through the smog. It was 2 a.m. Traffic was light, mostly long-haul trucks and street racers looking for trouble. Izuku merged onto the highway, the wind tearing at his clothes. He wasn't wearing his helmet with the rabbit ears tonight. He needed peripheral vision. He wore a sleek, black visor that interfaced with his bike's speedometer. Current speed, 140 kilometers per hour. Sylvia said he'd be here. Izuku muttered into his comms. Where is he? Check your 6, darling. Sylvia's voice crackled in his ear. She sounded bored, likely sipping wine in a hot tub somewhere. He doesn't drive a car. He is the car. Izuku checked his rearview mirror. At first, he saw nothing but the dark asphalt. Then, he saw sparks, blue sparks, grinding against the road. A shape was approaching. Fast. It wasn't a vehicle. It was a man. Tenya Ida was running. He looked monstrous. His legs were encased in bulky, chrome armor that extended up to his hips. Exhaust pipes protruded from his calves, spewing blue flames. His arms were streamlined with aerodynamic plating. He wore a full-face helmet that looked like the front grille of a muscle car, with glowing red eyes. He was running at 150 kilometers per hour. And he was accelerating. Target acquired, Izuku said, his heart hammering against his ribs. It's him. Ida pulled up alongside the scooter. He didn't look tired. His engines whined in harmony with his stride. He turned his helmet toward Izuku. Even through the visor, Izuku could feel the glare. Midoriya. Ida's voice was amplified by external speakers, booming over the wind. You have fallen far from the honor roll. Ida? Izuku shouted back, struggling to keep the bike steady. We don't have to do this. You can walk away. Walk? Ida laughed, a metallic, distorted sound. I haven't walked in years, Midoriya. I only run. I run toward justice. And justice demands the eradication of the UAA. You are a member. Therefore you are a target. I'm trying to destroy it from the inside. Izuku pleaded. Like Nagant. Like you, inefficient, Ida stated. The system cannot be fixed. It must be run down. My brother. Tensei. The flames from Ida's calves flared brighter. The UAA took his legs, Ida roared. So I took their speed. I am the engine of vengeance. Prepare to be recalled. Ida slammed on his brakes, literally. Metal flaps opened on his armor, catching the air. He dropped back behind Izuku, then engaged his nitros. Boom! He rocketed forward, aiming a kick at Izuku's back wheel. Izuku swerved. The UE crawler drifted into the next lane, tires screaming. Ida's kick missed the wheel but clipped the exhaust pipe. Sparks showered the road. He's faster on the straightaway, Izuku analyzed, his mind racing as fast as the bike. He treats his body like a vehicle. He has gears. He just shifted from third to fourth. Ida was relentless. He ran up the side of a concrete barrier, defying gravity with sheer momentum, and leaped down at Izuku. Izuku drew the Detroit smash. He didn't ignite the blade yet. The wind resistance would rip it from his hand. He used the handle to parry Ida's armored shin. Clang! The impact shuddered through Izuku's arm. Recipro. Extend! Ida shouted. The mufflers on his legs extended. The blue flame turned white. Ida vanished. He didn't disappear. He just moved faster than Izuku's eyes could track. He appeared in front of the bike, running backward, facing Izuku. Violation of traffic safety laws. Ida shouted. Speeding. Reckless driving. Failure to yield to a superior force. He delivered a high-speed roundhouse kick to the front of the scooter. The bike buckled. The front fork bent. Izuku was thrown over the handlebars. Scenario C. Bail out. Izuku kicked off the bike in midair. The Yui crawler tumbled down the highway, exploding into a ball of fire as a semi-truck plowed into it. Izuku hit the asphalt. He rolled. His Kevlar suit shredded. He activated the microthrusters in his boots, another May special, to kill his momentum, sliding to a stop in the breakdown lane. He stood up, panting. Traffic screeched to a halt around the burning wreckage of his scooter. Ida skidded to a stop 50 meters away. He turned slowly. His engines idled with a menacing thrum-thrum-thrum. Vehicle destroyed, Ida announced. Pedestrian mode engaged. You are now jaywalking Midoriya. The penalty is death. You talk too much, Izuku spat, wiping blood from his chin. You used to be the class rep. You used to tell me off for muttering. I am merely citing the statutes of your execution, Ida said. He crouched, his engines revving up for a charge. Come on then, class rep. Izuku ignited the beam katana. Zjism. The green light cut through the darkness. Ida launched. The fight on the highway was a disaster. Ida was too fast. He bounced off cars, used guardrails as springboards, and turned the open road into his personal pinball machine. Izuku was on the defensive. He couldn't land a hit. Every time he swung, Ida was already gone, leaving only an afterimage and the smell of exhaust. Analysis. He moves in straight lines. Extremely fast acceleration, but his turning radius at high speeds is wide. He compensates by drifting or rebounding off solid objects. Izuku dodged a piston-fueled kick that shattered the concrete barrier behind him. Stand still and accept judgment. Ida roared. I need an environment change, Izuku muttered. Open ground favors the engine. I need friction. I need obstacles. He looked over the edge of the highway. Below the overpass was the Santa-destroyed drainage canal. A massive, concrete riverbed filled with shallow, muck-infested water and debris. Water, Izuku realized. May said don't use the taser in a puddle. But she didn't say anything about him standing in one. Ida charged again. Recipro burst. Izuku waited. He stood on the very edge of the overpass. As Ida rocketed toward him, a silver bullet of vengeance, Izuku deactivated his beam katana and dropped flat. Ida flew over him, but Ida was expecting a dodge. He deployed air brakes on his calves. He stopped in midair, rotating his body. Calculated. Ida shouted. He grabbed Izuku by the collar of his jacket. Going down? Ida asked. He dragged Izuku off the bridge. They fell together, 60 feet down into the darkness. They hit the water with a splash that sounded like a cannonball. The water was shallow, maybe ankle deep, but the bottom was slick with algae and urban slime. They rolled apart. Izuku scrambled to his feet, mud coating his jacket. Ida stood up. His engine sputtered. Pft, pft. Steam hissed from his exhaust pipes. Water, Ida said with disdain. A minor nuisance. My intakes are shielded. He rubbed his legs. The water around him boiled and evaporated. The engines roared back to life, angry and loud. Shielded intakes, Izuku noted. But what about the traction? Ida charged. But this time, when he pushed off, his metal foot slipped on the mossy concrete. He stumbled. Just for a fraction of a second. There, Izuku lunged. He swung the beam katana. Ida recovered instantly, using his arm guards to block the strike. Clang. But the slip had cost him his momentum. He couldn't run at Mach speed in the muck. This terrain violates zoning regulations. Ida shouted, frustrated. He began to use short, burst-fire kicks instead of long runs. Bang! 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 Izuku parried, ducked, and weaved. The Detroit smash hummed, building up its charge. You're slowing down, Ida! Izuku yelled. Your brother wouldn't want this. He was a hero. He saved people. Tensei is a vegetable. Ida screamed, his composure cracking. He sits in a chair and drools while the UAA makes billions. Don't you dare speak his name, you, the quirkless reject who bought his way into the game. Ida's engines flared red. Overheat mode. Torque overdrive. Ida didn't run. He spun. He turned into a cyclone of kicks, splashing dirty water everywhere. It was a chaotic, desperate attack. Izuku was pushed back. The water was blinding him. The noise was deafening. He's not analyzing anymore, Izuku realized. He's just angry. He's grieving. Izuku saw an opening. Ida was revving for a massive stomp, a move that would crush Izuku's skull. But to do it, Ida had to plant his left foot firmly in the center of the canal, where the water was deepest. Ida raised his right leg. The engine screamed. Izuku didn't block. He dropped his sword. He reached into his pouch and pulled out the thunderclap attachment. He hadn't put it on the sword yet because of the rain. He held the device in his hand. They said not to stand in a puddle, Izuku whispered. Sorry, Mom. Ida brought his foot down. Izuku rolled forward, directly under the stomp. He slammed the taser attachment onto Ida's planted left leg, right onto the exposed metal of the engine block. He thumbed the activation switch. Zzzzz cracka. 50,000 volts dumped directly into Ida's suit. Because they were both standing in water, the circuit completed instantly. The blue electricity arced through the water, lighting up the dark canal like a strobe light. Gah! Ida screamed. It wasn't a hero's scream. It was the sound of a machine dying. His engine seized. The pistons misfired. Bang! Clunk! Crack! Internal components shattered under the electrical surge. Izuku screamed too. The shockwave hit him, convulsing his muscles. He was thrown backward, landing face first in the mud. His nerves felt like they were on fire. Smoke billowed from Ida's legs. The glowing red eyes of his helmet flickered and died. He stood there, frozen, his armor locked up, statue still. Izuku twitched. He forced his body to move. His left arm was numb. He dragged himself out of the water onto a dry patch of concrete. He looked at Ida. The turbo killer fell over. He hit the ground with the heavy sound of dead weight. He couldn't move his legs. The servos were fused. Izuku coughed, spitting out muddy water. He crawled over to his fallen sword. He picked it up. He walked over to Ida. Ida was lying on his back. He reached up and tore his helmet off. Underneath, Tenya Ida looked young. He wore glasses that were cracked. His face was streaked with soot and tears. I can't move, Ida whispered. He looked at his legs. They were blackened, ruined metal. My engine stalled. The water, Izuku rasped, standing over him. It conducted the charge into your intake manifold. You shorted out? Ida looked up at the night sky. The rain had stopped. I didn't finish the mission, Ida said, his voice trembling. Tensei. I couldn't avenge you. Tensei didn't want vengeance, Tenya, Izuku said softly. He wanted you to be better than this. Ida looked at Izuku. For a moment, the madness faded. He looked like the class representative again. The boy who told people to sit down and read the syllabus. Midoriya, Ida said. Was I fast? Izuku gripped the handle of the Detroit Smash. His heart ached. This wasn't a victory. It was an amputation. Yeah, Izuku said, tears mixing with the rain on his face. You were the fastest. Nobody could catch you. Ida smiled. A small, sad smile. Good. That's acceptable. Ida closed his eyes. He stopped fighting. He waited. Izuku activated the blade. Zjizm. He didn't hesitate. To hesitate would be an insult. In the UA, mercy was a clean kill. Class dismissed, Izuku whispered. He swung the blade. The cleanup crew didn't come for a while. It was just Izuku and the silence of the canal. He sat on a concrete ledge, shivering. The adrenaline was gone, leaving only the cold and the pain of the electric shock. He looked at his phone. Ranking update. Current rank 7. Bounty claimed, 8 million yen. Target status, deceased. He opened his notebook. Rank 7, Tenya Ida. He stared at the page. He remembered Ida in middle school. The way he chopped the air with his hands. The way he took notes. Izuku took the red marker. He drew the X. The ink bled through the paper. Note: speed is nothing without direction. He closed the book. He felt heavy. Every rank he climbed, he lost a piece of himself. Muscular took his fear. Spinner took his innocence. Gentle took his idealism. And Ida? Ida took his past. Hello? His phone rang. It was Sylvia. Good work, Speed Racer, she said. I saw the drone footage. Very creative use of environmental hazards. Although, you fried your own nervous system. You might want to see a doctor. I killed him, Izuku said dully. He was my friend. He was a target, Sylvia corrected sharply. Don't get confused, Deku. The moment he signed up for the UAA, he ceased to be your classmate. He became a competitor. I'm tired, Sylvia. Too bad, she said. Because the game doesn't stop. And trust me, you don't want to rest now. Why? Because rank 6 just opened up, Sylvia said. Her voice dropped an octave. It sounded serious. And the new holder is volatile. I know who it is, Izuku said. Katsuki? Bakugo, Sylvia confirmed. He just slaughtered the previous rank 6. Blew him into confetti. And Deku? He's not waiting for an appointment. He's looking for you. Let him look, Izuku said. He stood up, wincing as his nerves fired phantom pains. I have to walk home. My bike is destroyed. Take a taxi, Sylvia laughed. You're rich now. No, Izuku said. I need the walk. He hung up. He climbed out of the canal, leaving the body of the turbo killer in the mud. He walked onto the street. The neon lights of Santa Destroy flickered. A billboard overhead showed a commercial for a new hero energy drink. Plus Ultra! The billboard screamed. Izuku spat on the ground. Plus Ultra, he muttered. He began the long limp back to the No More Dreams motel. The beam katana at his hip felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, but he didn't drop it. He couldn't. He was rank 7. And the explosion was coming.